When you hear the word functional, you probably think of those crazy exercises where someone is balancing on a Bosu ball with a band around their thighs and 2 different dumbbells moving around in space. When I think of the word functional, I simply think of movement with purpose. This is the third of a 3-part series where I break down functional training for the core, lower, and upper body. Now, obviously, we all have different goals, so functional or purposeful is going to look different on everybody. So today, we're keeping it really basic, and specifically, we're diving into the upper body. We'll go through the main functions of the arms and how to train them to help support your daily life. But before we jump into the bulk of it, if you have not yet hit that subscribe button, I would love for you to do so I can continue to make free educational content so you understand how your body works better and how you can train it to the best of your ability. But all that being said, let's talk about some function here. There's a lot of different ways we can approach this, but I think one of the best ways to approach functional training is thinking more about movement patterns and less about muscle groups. For the upper body, we have pushing and pulling movement patterns. Push patterns typically recruit more of the anterior chain, while pull patterns typically recruit more of the posterior chain. And these can move either vertical or horizontal in relation to our bodies. Now with that, we can also perform bilateral or unilateral variations. Bilateral means 2 arms, unilateral means 1 arm. Now another thing to keep in mind are planes of motion. We can move in the sagittal plane, up and down, front to back. We can move in the frontal plane, side to side, and we can move in the transverse plane or rotationally. Now I always tell people I wouldn't get super hung up on making sure we're getting in equal amounts of all 3 planes of motion in our training, but I think that it's important to make sure you have a little bit of this here and there because we do live in a 360-degree world, so we want to make sure that our training complements that. And the final aspect to think about is tempo. We want to be able to move fast, slow, hold positions because we see all of this in daily life. The goal of training all of these aspects is so that when you meet a force in a certain direction at a certain speed with certain muscle groups, it's not more than you can handle, aka you don't get injured. I feel like when people hear don't get injured, they always think of worst case scenario like breaking the wrist or tearing the rotator cuff. And obviously those things can happen, but more so what I see with people are these chronic small things that keep them out of the gym. So hopefully today, with all of the knowledge you're going to gain in this video, we are able to reduce the risk of those little chronic issues that keep us out of our workouts. But all that being said, let's get up on our feet and we're going to work through some of these options. So let's start first with our different movement patterns. We're going to start with a bilateral horizontal push. So again, what does that mean? Bilateral, 2 arms, horizontal in relation to our body, and we're going to be pushing the weight away from us. The best option for this is a good old-fashioned chest press. So to set this guy up, we're going to come to the edge of our bench, grabbing our weight. I like to bring it on top of the thighs, and then I'm going to take a little lean forward to get momentum, roll back, punch the ceiling. We want to make sure we've got feet firmly planted on the ground, shoulder blades are scooped under us, and I've got a little lift under my back. In this position, we're going to inhale down, exhale to push back up. As I'm doing this, we want the lower body involved. So I'm actively pushing my feet down into the ground, squeezing my glutes on that push. For a unilateral variation, we can do a single arm. So we're just going to do one side at a time. I like to have the other weight up here so I don't need to sit back up and switch. We could also do alternating, which will technically also be a unilateral or single arm variation. All right, so we just learned about our horizontal pushing options. Now let's look at a horizontal pull. Best option for this is a bent over row, and that's going to be our bilateral or 2 arm variation. So grabbing our weights of choice, we're going to come into pretty much a deadlift position. So we find the bottom of our deadlift, booty is stretched back. We're going to take an exhale. Inhale down, exhale to pull, inhale down. Now I'm going to tell you right now, this variation can be really tricky for people to stay in this hinge and load it up heavy enough because the low back is going to kind of be the limiting factor. So what I typically like to do with people is going to be a single arm bent over row using the support of either a bench or a chair. And this is going to be our unilateral option. So I think it really depends on what you're trying to get out of the movement and what client is in front of you for which horizontal pull you're actually going to program. All right, so we have our horizontal patterns out of the way. Let's look at vertical patterns. We're going to start with a vertical bilateral or 2 arm push, and that's going to be an overhead press. So we take our weights, we're going to bring them onto the shoulders, feet underneath the hips, toes to the front. We take an exhale, big push. We've got that neutral spine all the way stacked. Inhale back down, pushing up, inhale back down. If we want to make this a unilateral variation, we can just go single arm overhead pressing. You can do this from standing. You could do this from half kneeling. You could do this seated. The world is your oyster, but you know now that we have a 2-arm or bilateral variation and then a unilateral variation as well. So for our vertical pull, my favorite is going to be a lat pull down. Obviously, I'm at home. I do not have a lat pull down machine here, but we're going to put some B-roll on top so you know what it looks like. So a lat pull down is going to be our bilateral or 2-arm vertical pull. This is going to be working the muscles of the back, and we want to make sure we're getting that full stretch by letting the shoulders elevate up by the ears at the very end of the movement. Now, to make this a single arm or unilateral variation, all we need to do is change the attachment and we can do some single arm lat pull downs. All right, so now we're going to move into planes of motion. We're starting with the sagittal plane, which again is up, down, front, back. Again, like we've already talked about, there's a lot of different options in the sagittal plane. I'd say most of our exercises live here, but we're going to go through some skull crushers. So this is going to be an exercise to target the triceps. Ideally, we're on a bench, but you can also do this on the floor. Light to medium weights, we roll back, palms face each other. I'm going to take my arms and move them slightly behind the head. From here, we bend at the elbows and extend. What we want to make sure of here is that the hinge point is the elbow, not the shoulders. What I see a lot of the time is this happening or this happening, where we get the lat involved. Our breath is an inhale down, exhale to push. Now that's our sagittal plane, front, back, up and down. We can also move in the frontal plane or side to side. I'm going to keep the same weights. We can do a lateral raise. So we exhale to lift, inhale down. We want to make sure in lateral raises that we're coming just slightly in front of the shoulder or on the scapular plane. If we're coming straight out to the side, it's not going to feel good on that shoulder joint. And you can see I've got a nice little bend in the elbow just to take some of that pressure off of that joint. Final exercise in the transverse plane or rotating, we're going to do a rotating seesaw press. So feet are underneath the hips. As I press the weight up, I'm rotating in that direction. We're going to push and pull at the same time to switch and switch. So again, we've got lots of variations with all of these basic patterns. We can really get creative with how we're programming them to get all of our planes of motion in our workouts throughout the week. All right, so finally, we're going to move into tempo, and we're going to play a little game that I call Kevin Says, aka the cameraman tells me what tempo to do. So we're going to start with our basic tempo, coming down to the floor here. We've got hands underneath the armpits. Feet are about shoulder distance apart. Our normal push-up tempo is going to be down and up, so nice even. Cameraman Kevin, what's the first tempo variation we can try?
Fast.
We can try fast in both directions. Down, get out of the hole as fast as possible.
Slow.
Slow, we can take our time, milking the whole push-up.
Eccentric.
Eccentric is just going to be that lengthening phase. So we're going to come down slow for 3, 2, 1. Try and get out of the hole. Up in 1.
Concentric.
Concentric is the opposite. We're going to drop down, hold it, come up nice and slow.
Pause rep.
Pause rep. We come down, take a whole breath here. On your exhale, right back up.
Triphasic.
Oh, I need to shake out for this one. So triphasic, we're going to put down an eccentric, a concentric, and then a normal tempo down and up for 2. So eccentric, we're coming down for 3, 2, 1, pop up 1, right back down, up 3, 2, 1, and then just a down for 2, up for 2. Is that it?
Drop.
Oh my God. Okay. Hands are going to start closer together. I'm going to take a little bounce through my elbows, catch myself, walk it back in. Catch it, walk back in. Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. So if you have any questions about functional upper body training, I would love to hear about it down in the comments below. And I would love for everyone to give a little thank you to our cameraman, Kevin. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos, and I will see you all in the next one.